Hi, my name is Aisha and today we're going to talk about the OSI layer. The OSI layer, also known as the Open System Interconnection, was introduced by the ISO in 1984. It is a conceptual framework that is used to divide the networks into 7 different layers so that they can run smoothly. Now let's look at the application layer. The application layer is used for network application. It is used so that they can run smoothly. For example, I'm opening Chrome. When I'm opening Chrome, I'm using the protocols of the application layer, such as HTTP and HTTPS, which is used for web serving. It is also used for file transfer. When we're sending an email, we are using the protocol known as SMTP, which basically helps us send an email to the other person, from the sender to the receiver. It's also used for virtual terminal. Now let's look at the presentation layer. The presentation layer is used for multiple reasons, but the 3 main concepts that we need to understand is translation, data compression, and finally, encryption and decryption. Well, now what is translation? Translation is when it changes the alphabetical stuff, for example, A, B, C, D, or 8, 3, like whatever we have written. For example, I've written to my friend, happy 10th birthday. It's going to change that from the sender to binary code. Binary code consists of 1s and 0s, so it encrypts the data. So for example, I'm sending my friend a happy 10th birthday, so it's going to encrypt the data first of all. Before that, it's going to change into binary code. So that the computer can understand what we have written, and then it's going to encrypt the data, which is done by encryption and decryption. So when it encrypts the data, it basically changes it so that any person on the internet cannot hack, or they cannot know what you have written. For example, you're writing your passwords or etc., and you're sending that to your friend. Now let's look at the session layer. The session layer manages and controls the connection between 2 devices, establishing, maintaining, and terminating communication. The session layer uses data packets that ensure data exchanges are properly synchronized and organized. The session layer is responsible for setting up and ending conversation between applications on different devices using data packets. It ensures that there are no interruptions and there's smoother communication. Now let's look at the transport layer. Before we move ahead, I just want you guys to understand that this layer is the 4th layer of the OSI model. The 2 main protocols that are used in the transport layer are UDP and TCP. UDP is a connection-less protocol, while TCP is a connection-oriented protocol. I just want you guys to understand that UDP is not reliable, while TCP is reliable. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol. UDP is not reliable, but it's more faster. And it's used in video streaming, in videos. It's used for when you're calling your friend and stuff. But TCP is more reliable, and it's used in companies where data integrity is most important. TCP uses a 3-way handshake, making it more reliable and more secure, while UDP does not use any of that, and it just sends the data. And for example, if I'm sending my friend a file of my homework and I'm just lending it to her so that she can use, and that file is 10 Mbps long. It has 7 pages. Now, if I'm using the protocol UDP, let's just say I'm using UDP, or I'm doing video streaming and I'm just sending that file on a video stream, etc. Or maybe I'm doing gaming and I'm just sending on Discord or anything. The thing is, with UDP, it's going to, for that 10 Mbps file can get lost. Some parts of that 10 Mbps file can get lost. So from that 10 Mbps, we don't really know, but by using UDP, because it's more faster, it's not reliable, it might just send 8 Mbps, basically let's just say 5 pages of that from that file of that homework, and that 2 pages that are remaining, okay, that 2 pages, they're lost, they're gone, you can't get them back. That file is lost, if that makes sense. If the connection was going, but then half of the connection was lost. That's why we don't normally use UDP, but for example, if we're doing video streaming or we're playing a game with our friend, that's where we use the protocol UDP. But in companies, reliable companies, for example, Rio Tinto or BHP, etc., they use the protocol TCP so that there's reliable data that's getting sent, so that the data is not lost and the connectivity is there. Now let's look at the network layer. The network layer is responsible for routing data packets between devices across different networks. It's used for packet forwarding, routing, addressing, and it's ensuring data reaches the correct destination from source to destination, sender to receiver. Which basically means if I'm sending a message to my friend again, and I'm just sending her a photo of a cake, like I'm bringing this to your house, then that file should go from the sender, from me, to her house, from her to her router. So from my router, then it will go through the wires and everything else, and then it's going to reach the destination, which basically in this case is the receiver. My friend is the receiver and I'm the sender. Have you ever thought about how the message gets sent? Like, you're sending your friend a message, and how does it get sent? Because you're not going to her house or you're not doing anything else. It goes from the internet, from your router, from your switch, etc. It goes from the wires, etc. And then it goes to her house. Then her router looks at the information, then it sends it, etc. to, like, for example, her mom or her dad, like whoever it went to. Networking itself is mind-blowing. The key function that the network layer does is it determines the best path for the data to be transferred, and it handles logical addressing through IP addresses. Like, for example, IPv4 address, IPv6 address, which is not commonly used. IPv4 is used like 60% across the world, and IPv6 addresses are used about 40% across the world because they have way too many addresses and they're not really used. It was made as a backup just in case we are out of IP addresses, we can use IPv6 addressing. So the main protocol that it uses is Internet Protocol IP addresses. Now let's talk about the data link layer. The data link layer is responsible for node-to-node transfer and error connection in a network. It uses protocols such as MAC addresses and it uses Ethernet. Now, what is MAC? I'll discuss MAC in another video, but for now, just understand that MAC is a permanent IP address of your computer. Let's talk about what the data link layer does so that you guys can have a better understanding of what it does and what it cannot do. Starting off with addressing. Addressing uses MAC addresses to identify and direct the data to the correct device on the local network. Let's just say I have my IP address as 192.168.32.12 and my friend has the IP address as 110.32.16.12. Now, what addressing actually does is sends the packet to the destination. As I just said, MAC address is a permanent IP address and every device has one and it cannot get changed. Let's just say my friend needs help and she needs the homework answers because she's finished her homework and my teacher needs to send it to her. She's not going to send it to me, of course. She's going to send it to my friend. So how is this done? It's done by the data link layer. It's done by addressing. So it sends the data to the correct address, to the correct destination by using MAC addresses. Now let's talk about data framing. Data framing is when it packages raw bits from the physical layer into frames, which includes headers and trailers. Now, what does this mean? Before we talk about this, let's just understand that before the data link layer, what comes? What's the first layer? The physical layer. Yes, you're correct. So what it actually does, the physical layer has bits. It has raw bits that needs to be packaged. Now the second layer is the data link layer. Is it not? It is. So what the data link layer does, it packages the raw bits from the physical layer. So it goes to the physical layer. From the physical layer, it goes to the data link layer. And it packages them up into what we know as frames. Now let's talk about one more thing, error detection and correction, another important factor about the data link layer. Now what does it do? What it basically does, it checks for errors or anything that's wrong or anything that's not supposed to be there, and it checks for errors and in transmitted frames, so the frames that are located for each device, etc., that are supposed to be sent, and requests retransmission if needed. So for example, let's just say there is an error, there's something wrong, it sent it to the wrong IP addresses, then it's going to retransmit it. So basically it's going to send it to the correct IP address. It's going to do the process again. Now let's talk about the physical layer. All you need to understand for the physical layer, basically the basic concept. It basically helps physical connections to be connected, like the switch is connected with the computer or like the wires are all connected, everything's there. It basically transmits raw bits from a physical medium. It basically deals with the hardware aspect of networking. like cables, like switches, like electrical components, etc. Like when you're like the wires that need to be there, like the Ethernet wires, the different wires, like just a printer, like we have a switch over there and we need different like wires to connect through the different switches, etc. So just remember one thing. The physical layer is used for physical connectivity between devices. If you remember this concept and you like take this in and you not just memorize it but you understand what I'm saying right now, you'll be set and you actually know what the physical layer does. The physical layer doesn't really deal with physical connectivity much, but it's the data link there that does so. We just discussed about this in the previous slide that we just talked about. So let's go to this again. The physical layer basically just sends the raw bits to the data link layer so it can do its job, because what it does, it just basically handles the hardware point of view of networking and stuff. So it just sends it and the data link there does the rest, and then it sends it to the next layer, then to the next layer, then to the next layer, etc. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to my presentation. Hopefully you guys understand what the OSI layer does and what it is used for, like each layer is used for and like its functions, etc. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!